So the last live stream, I started Flame Wars, basically, by going through what I thought were the worst lines of the Stephen Moffat era of Doctor Who. Some very controversial, contentious choices, but what really started that whole topic was that I did a tweet thread talking about the worst lines of the Chris Chibnall era. And then I thought, just for balance, I'll go over the Stephen Moffat ones. But the day of reckoning has come for the worst lines of the Chris Chibnall era, in brackets so far, because there is the centenary special. Now, I am someone, I don't want to get the... just to get all of this out of the way, I don't think that Chris Chibnall is the worst writer to have ever written anything ever for Doctor Who or for the history of TV generally, but it is pretty easy to find some really bad moments of exposition or some really bad moments of or lines in Doctor Who that really should have not been there. So the first one that came to mind for me was from the latest episode, from Legend of the Sea Devils, when they're in a sword fight, and the Sea Devils have got their electrical swords, and the Doctor, very helpfully during this fight, and it's about halfway through the scene as well, says, "Don't let the swords touch your skin." As if, regardless of the context, that this is useful advice in any capacity. Of course you don't want the swords to touch your skin, because they're swords and they're blades and they're trying to kill you. They are electrical swords, but as far as I'm concerned, even if they were just bog standard steel blades, you still don't want them touching your skin. I think that's terrible. Don't let the swords touch your skin. Thank you. Very, very helpful, Doctor. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. And it didn't need to be here. You can cut this out. Go away. Right. Next up. This line from Once Upon Time, where this is so frustrating from being a Chris Chibnall apologist. When you've got Belle at the campfire looking over Vinda's recorded message, and she says, "I wonder if he looks different," is genuinely one of the most profound and powerful lines of Doctor Who over the past couple of years. Unironically, I love it. I think it's beautiful. It's a wonderful way to put into words the thought process of being away from somebody across time and space, across the universe, not seeing them for a long time, and then the next time you do see them, are they the person that you recognise? As somebody who did not see family members for a year and a half because of lockdowns and COVID and pandemics and stuff, and when I would meet up with friends and family, they would genuinely look different. That line was really brilliant and really struck a chord with me. And then she comes out with this: "Me and your beautiful as yet unborn child." Why does she say that? Okay, that's overthinking it. Just say, "Me and your unborn child." You as yet. Oh, it's such a messy line. It's such a messy line. Oh my. Okay, I've loved the memes that have come out from it. Like, roses are red, violets are mild. Me and your beautiful as yet unborn child. Stuff like that is funny. Okay, that's funny. It's just one of those, you had it in your hand, and then you threw it away. So, next one. The Judoon have got us an attractor beam, dragging us on board their ship. This is from Fugitive of the Judoon, if you couldn't tell. The line, in and of itself, is not particularly an issue. It's the fact that the line is here at all that's the problem. Because this is basically Joe Martin recording ADR for the episode, where we can actively see that the Judoon ship, because we get the establishing shot, is taking the TARDIS, drags it out of the ground in a tractor beam and takes it to their ship. Joe Martin through ADR is just doing audio navigation. Press enter now. I've got it on a mouse mat. We don't need this. If this was a big Finnish production, if this was Doctor Who Redacted episode 11, fine. But the Judoon have got, she's actively describing what the audience are seeing. Now, I will say, in Series 11, people said that this is a constant problem with Chibnall. It's not that much of a problem in Series 11, all things considered. However, in Series 12 and Series 13, this is a frequent issue. This frequently happens. It was also in Legend of the Sea Devils, when it's he's forcing all his men to jump overboard. We can see it. Chris Chibnall wants Doctor Who to be like ITV drama. Cool. then treat the audience like it's an ITV drama audience where they don't actively need this stuff explaining. It's so frustrating, and it rips the audience out of the episode. Next up, from Kablam, the systems aren't the problem, it's how people use and exploit the system that's the problem. This is one of the moments, or one of the episodes I should say, that I like to bring up when people basically just admit that they have no idea what they're talking about and say that Doctor Who has become an incredibly woke, left-wing, super hyper-progressive program. Kablam is an episode that initially starts out as maybe a commentary on companies like Amazon and automation and worker mistreatment and things like that, only to reveal itself at the end to be anti-union, anti-worker, because it does the neoliberal thing of, this guy had good motivations, but he went way too far. We see this in franchises like, the MCU, like Godzilla, where you've got these characters who are morally right, but then, they do something really bad and evil, so we've got to take him out. It's frustrating. And it undermines everything the episode's going for. Kind of like how Falcon and the Winter Soldier basically ends with Falcon talking to the politicians who can actually make progressive and good changes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and basically says, vote harder. Okay, great. Thank you, Kamala. So, this line also goes against the whole messaging of the story as well, because it treats systems or algorithms and everything, and automation, like it's just some nebulous force, like it's something that is put out into the universe and for people to exploit and make the world a worse place through it, completely ignoring that people designed the system, people made the system to exploit people, and that those same people can actually stop the system at any time or alter it to make it better. It is a centrist or neoliberal approach to the world that, like most centrist and neoliberal things, fall apart under the most basic of scrutiny. So, we've got some more here as well. This one, now they'll see the real you. This is the scene in Spyfall Part 2, where the Master has a perception filter which shows that, which shows the Nazis that he's working with that he's actually a white person, so they don't send him to, concentration camps or something. That's the implication, or they don't imprison him. But then the Doctor uses her sonic screwdriver to get rid of the perception filter when the Nazis are coming up the Eiffel Tower to arrest him. So part of me feels like there is like an air of legitimacy to the thought process and the tactic, where Sacha Dhawan's Master in this story has sided with a political ideology that would basically, without that perception filter, would want him dead. And there are people as well in the real world who do take that approach to politics, where, whether it is some form of self-loathing or some form of self-preservation, they align with forces that do want to kill them. You do, believe it or not, you did get some Jewish Nazis. You do get black members of the KKK. You do get gay conservatives. Whether it is basically, I will be the last in the queue to the gas chambers, or, I'm one of the good ones, whether it's that is actually something that really does happen in the real world, and that the Master is... So, he doesn't even need the perception filter, to be honest. He could just be, I'm one of the good ones. So it just feels like this moment feels oddly cruel for the 13th Doctor, even though it wasn't even needed for that setup in the first place. And yeah, and now they'll see the real you is just not a very compassionate line. Like, never cruel or cowardly. This doesn't feel like it's meeting up to the Doctor's philosophy. Proof that this happens is Blair White on YouTube, a trans woman who's also conservative, so yeah, it happens. Oh, yeah, Blair White is one of the most public examples of this, absolutely. There was actually an Indian division of the SS, and they were posted near Paris at the time Spyfall Part 2 was set, no need for the perception filter at all. Yeah, it's one of those things that it didn't need to be here in the first place in order to be historically accurate. But then how it's used and exploited in the episode just makes it a whole lot worse. So yeah, quite a grudge you got against humanity, especially considering it used to be one. This is in the same vein as Yet Unborn Child, where it's like, why did you word it like this? And people said, Jodie Whittaker clearly got the line wrong. Jodie Whittaker flubbed it and they just used that take. However, if you go to the actual shooting script for Ascension of the Cybermen, quite a grudge you've got against humanity, especially considering you used to be one. Jodie Whittaker nailed the line delivery. Like, she got it word for word. This was the line. Like, is nobody proofreading this? Apparently, no. This was the line that Chris Chibnall wanted to use, and Jodie Whittaker delivered it. It's one of those moments where you're watching it in the moment and you're like, hang on, did I hear that correctly? I feel like this misworded ones aren't as bad or as immoral as the, like, Kablam, Spyfall, and Can You Hear? Oh, yeah, but, you know, we're trying to talk about a broader trend in Chris Chibnall's writing. And also, I forgot this one when doing the tweet thread initially. This is from Survivors of the Flux, which in my opinion is Chris Chibnall's worst script for the show. If the Flux is destroying the universe, if planets and stars are being wiped out, there will be displaced creatures who need a home. Somewhere to take over. Chris, you are a writer, so I'm sure I do not need to explain to you that words mean things, and certain words have certain implications. Displaced creatures, somewhere to take over. Grits my teeth. So, it is true, in the context of the story, that the Flux is going to be destroying worlds and universes and stuff, so there will be creatures who are looking for a home. But using the phrase to take over and implying, you know, the Daleks, Cybermen, Sontarans are amongst like that group who are going to try and take over Earth. Like, for like 99.999% of people who are displaced from their territories who go to a place isn't to take over. It's to find refuge. It's to find shelter. It's to start a new life. To use the phrase take over has some really yikesy connotations to it. So when people say, oh, this show is now hyper woke, it's now super lefty, and you have scenes like Kablam, like in Spyfall, and like this, it just shows that people's perception of what is woke and political begins and ends at women on TV, gay people writing, or gay people on TV, or trans people, etc. That is the beginning and end of what politics in media means to them. And it's a bit of a self-report, but it also implies that the people who are making those criticisms actually watch, you know, this media in the first place, which they categorically don't. So yeah, WG fan Jodie Whittaker is Priti Patel. Maybe not Priti Patel, but she's probably voting. But this is the task. Earth has been shielded from the Flux, but it will be vulnerable. It will become a target. If the Flux is destroying the universe, if planets and stars are being wiped out, there will be displaced creatures who need a home, somewhere to take over. But that would mean a time of battle for ownership of the Earth. Like, implying that the people who would, like, go to Earth would be wanting ownership of it. That's not how displacement or refugees or migrants work. You need to find out where events like the Flux create ripples through time. It have been foreseen somewhere by smart people. You need to figure out that date and help the Earth. And then it turns out they didn't need to do any of this because in the Vanquishers, the Doctor just finds her anyway. Kind of like in how Revolution of the Daleks, the tagline was, how do you stop the Daleks without the Doctor? Turns out you don't. You just wait for the Doctor to turn up and get broken out of space jail. Now, I'm not here to say that Chris Chibnall is some secret racist or that he's some secret Brexit voter or some secret Tory who's wearing human skin. I'm not saying that at all, but I do think that there's a certain carelessness to the writing. This is Pete Mateague, so who knows if that is something that Chris Chibnall is responsible for, but there's definitely a carelessness to this where, that is kind of unbecoming of a writer for Doctor Who. Alex Elkin just hear Chibnall saying writing a scene with a lesbian companion but don't want those right wingers on my back, so let's just say something really bad and right wing just for them. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's okay. Thasmin, we're the good lesbians. We actually want migrants to be not to come over. They're going to take over. They're going to displace us. We're the good lesbians who do great replacement theory. It won't. I think maybe he just doesn't think of the implications of his writing. Oh, yeah, that's a same point, just differently worded, I think. Nat Pierce, also, wasn't there a line in Legend of the Sea Devils about the Sea Devils having originally owning the Earth and wanting it back, and they're just like, that's bad with no discussion? Oh, yeah, Yasuke says that's no good, and then the plot goes along. There's like no reference or even tackling of the subject matter. J.K. Rowling references when the Doctor was locked in that prison too, very careless. Yeah, if she'd opened that with maybe the opening of The Hobbit or something, that would have been okay or better. But yeah, Casey O'Kelly, Stephen Moffat had to turn in a first draft of Let's Kill Hitler. I'm sure RTD had at some point. This kind of thing has happens with showrunners. It's a very stressful job. Oh yeah, absolutely. I know that with Stephen Moffat, many of people on the production team and the actors were lucky if they even got a first draft in some cases, particularly for like Series 7. Yeah, so it's very difficult. And for Series 11, Chris Chibnall has said that the Battle of Ranskarav Kolos was a first draft because he was too busy like working with all the other writers for their episodes that the Battle of Ranskarav Kolos got the short shrift. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if the name of the Doctor was a first draft or a no draft story, because if you watch the name of the Doctor, you'll realize it doesn't actually end. Like, there's like 50 loose ends, and then the War Doctor turns up for the cliffhanger, and then the name of the Doctor just starts after a undetermined time skip, and then nothing is resolved. Like, Series 7 doesn't have an ending. Like, that's mad that no one brings that up. Fix the Wi-Fi. Now that's what I call an inner conflict. To be fair, that line is good because of Ashad's response. Because, now that's what I call an inner conflict. And the Ashad says, yes, you are correct. And the Doctor's taken aback, saying, oh, am I? Didn't expect you to take it that well. I'll have to bill you for therapy at this rate. That line is justified because it's a funny response. I think it's a funny response, at least. Silver Tidus, also, I wanted to ride a horse. Sounds like something Strax would say, not a Sontaran was supposed to take seriously. Oh no, that is absolutely a Sontaran line. Like, stuff from the Time Warrior, from the Two Doctors, that is 1,000% in character. Nah, I disagree, Silver Tidus, I'm very sorry. To Chibnall's credit, there are some really good, like, master lines as well. As of now, I wish my enemies a long and healthy life so they may witness my many triumphs. That's a legit line. I do think, however, somebody said that that's just a direct rip from another show or like another theatre production or something. Vasquez Papazuda. I think it is cribbed from something else, but credit where it's due, I guess. And also, yeah, from Jack Evans on Twitter as well. Your blood shall soak our uniforms. Your bodies shall soften our steps. Great line. A great, genuinely intimidating line from the Sontarans. The surrender line from Resolution. Chef's kiss. Allocated surrender period has expired. Consequence extermination. Is genuinely one of the best Dalek lines in the history of the show. I think in terms of characterization, Chibnall is up there with David Whittaker and Russell T Davies when it comes to the characterization of the Daleks. Love everything about it. John Luca, there's maybe a bad moment, but I've recently gotten into screenwriting. What if anyone has any advice? Oh no, I can answer that while you're while the chat's voting. The number one advice to give in terms of screenwriting is, and it sounds silly, but this is something that often does get overlooked, is to read as many screenplays as possible. Because you wouldn't write a book without reading a load of books first. Same goes for screenplays, just for formatting and to get just a sense of like the rhythm of a script, or basically find an equivalent to what you want to write. If you want to write a drama, find drama scripts. If you want to write action films, read action scripts. Basically read scripts. Read your favorite films, read shooting scripts, read the drafts. That is always the best first approach for it. And then once you've done that, you start just write. Honestly, that even if it's something that you never intend to make, do something similar to what I did with Collateral of Ivanhoe, my 13th Doctor audio story, which just treat it like it will never be released, but do it for you so you can practice the craft, so that you can practice how you find your own style. one of the first rules of screenwriting that you learn at school, but then you find out that no one actually uses it, so you should never use it either, is do not be super overly descriptive in your scripts. They say that at film school, but you read the scripts that actually get made, and obviously you don't want paragraphs of text, but don't be afraid to add the flavor. Don't be afraid to give the odd camera direction or how you want something to be perceived by the director or by the viewer. Like, it's your script, it's your story, and sometimes you do need that level of specificity. And when you actually read scripts that get made, they do have it in. One second. For example, this, we've talked about this before on stream. Beautiful. Chef's kiss from the Halloween apocalypse when the Sontarans show up. Darkened, moody control deck of a Sontaran ship. Sontaran Commander Rickshaw stands with his helmet on, checking the screens, brooding, late at night, nursing a metaphorical whiskey. That's beautiful. I love it. And, well, he calls him an SOB or something, doesn't he? What's the episode where he says fuck? Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it is Halloween Apocalypse, sorry. When Claire is being chased by the angel, Claire exhales, defiant, triumphant, as if about to shout, fuck you to the angel. Chris Chibnall is the best writer that the Doctor Who has ever had, because he writes fucking his scripts. There we go. Mic drop, that's the moment. Right, let's go over the poll. So, okay, so we have on the poll 15% as yet unborn child, 17% the Judoon have a tractor beam, 28% displaced creatures who need a home, and 40% how people use the systems, that's the problem. Interesting. Interesting poll. Yeah, so as yet unborn child is kind of the stand-in for clunky dialogue. The Judoon have a tractor beam is the stand-in for to select audio navigation, press enter now. If you think don't let the swords touch your skin is the worst line, maybe go for this one. How people use the systems and displaced creatures need help. Those are like the super problematic ones. WG found where's the real you option? Probably displaced creatures. I don't know. You could only choose 4 options. I'm very sorry. But someone asked, what's the difference between writing screenplays and stage plays? As someone who doesn't write stage plays and has not studied them, unfortunately, I could not tell you. Stage plays, however, are way more reliant on the dialogue and less on stage directions. For stage directions, you just need to be much more plain with it, because not every theatre is going to be created equal. So, some theatres won't have the resources to do certain things. So I think for stage plays, you just keep it, that's where you keep it to the bare bones. And also make sure that you do leave in character pauses if necessary, so you're able to dictate the pace of the dialogue as best you can, if that's necessary. Alexel, to be fair, the Witch's dialogue is worse than some of these. Oh yeah, I agree. Some of the, like I mentioned before, I don't think that Chibnall wrote anything nearly as bad as stuff like Don't Cremate Me, or the implication of the Dalek tanks in Witches in the Witches Familiar. Nah, I think Chibnall is a much more frustrating writer. The difference with like Chibnall and Moffat comparisons is that, in my opinion, for Moffat, the lows were lower, significantly lower, but the highs were also way higher. Like, yeah, sure, you'd get stuff like Magician's Apprentice, but you would also get your Heaven Sent. You'd also get Word Enough in Time. You'd get The Doctor Falls. You'd get The Big Bang. You'd get Vincent and the Doctor. You'd get The Girl Who Waited. Not necessarily Steve Moffat scripts, but they happened under his watch. Whereas with Chibnall, you'll get great stories like Haunting of Idiotati and Demons of the Punjab, but it's not nearly as frequent. Are you happier with a series that fluctuates in quality week to week to that extent that you get Whiplash, or something that's a bit more consistent but never quite reaches those highs, that sort of plateaus, or I don't want to say meanders, because I think that the Chibnall era is like, there's more good in it than bad, I think.